Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. A world where coming in second place is not an option, but where principle-centered winning is the only approach.
Good morning and welcome to Government Contracting Weekly. I'm your host, Hilary Fordwich. This morning, you're going to meet two special guests who have years of experience as leaders in the government contracting community. First, you'll hear from Ella Studer, Vice President Stability and Sustainment Operations at KBR. KBR is one of the largest contractors serving the Defense Department and in particular the US Army. After Ella, you'll meet Bob Dougherty, the CEO of NetCentrics. Bob is also a leader within SECAF, the Small and Emerging Contractors Advisory Forum, and he's here to share with us the highlights of a recent panel discussion that I know you'll find interesting. As always, there's a lot to cover, so let's get right to it. This morning I have with me Ella Studer. She's the Vice President of Stability and Sustainment of Operations at KBR. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
And you have a unique background, Ella. Maybe you can share with our audience. Ella was at DLA on the government side, and you bring a lot of that expertise, understanding the government market to KBR. Maybe share a little bit more about your background.
Sure. I worked at DLA for 26 years, and in part of my time there, I was also in the quality assurance department, and so I have a wide range of skill sets, everything from out there in manufacturing facilities to actually running facilities, which gave me a great background to start my career with KBR.
And so, and your role at KBR, it's unique to be in stability and sustainment. Correct.
So basically I run operations that are long-term type of operations all around the world. So I have operations in Turkey and Spain and Djibouti and different areas. So
Australia,
they're long, right.
I saw too, yeah.
Yes. So the long-term type of operations for KBR on the government side.
And you have 26,000 something employees?
Yes,
like
KBR, yes, they have 26,000 employees all around the world working in our gas modernization, oil refineries, different infrastructures. We do a lot of building. So KBR is a very broad company that has a lot of different business groups.
Great. So many of our regular viewers are aware that we've covered the chasm between industry and government from many different shows, many different members from the government and also the industry perspective. Ella, who's with me this morning, has a unique perspective. She was at DLA for over 26 years, you mentioned. Yeah. And so she has a perspective from years ago as well as what's happening today, and you can give us maybe some of your thoughts on the future.
Sure.
Where do you think the chasm is today? Is the gap widening or is it decreasing?
I believe it's widening. You know, with the downsizing that's happened in the United States government and the acquisition corps, you have a lot of skill sets that's left the government, and so everybody tries hard, but they're overwhelmed, and you know you have big contracts with people that maybe don't have the time to and behind them to be able to have the education to be able to do the contract administration, awarding of the contracts that needs to happen. So I think all that leads to that their inability to put out contracts in a timely manner because they just don't have the personnel behind to be able to make up the technical certifications that have to happen in the contracts, and all that leads to long lead times for the contracts not coming out on time, or they award them way late, and then
or they're being pushed to the side as well.
Right,
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
And then the incumbent gets an extension, and then it all happens into our forecast. So we're trying to forecast one new bid, and all of a sudden when you thought it was going to come out in October, it comes out in December, and you're already working on something else. So it's hard for us to be able to juggle those priorities from a company. So.
And then also a lot of people say that the whole procurement workforce isn't as well trained as they used to be because those that are mature with experience are leaving, retiring.
Correct. I remember, when I was in, you didn't get a big contract till after you had 10 or 12 years, and you had lots of people mentoring you, things like that. Well, now you see, maybe I'm just because I'm getting older, but they seem to be a lot younger these days, managing very complex contracts. And so I think you have to have that business sense to be able to understand both sides.
And the nuances, it's not just the regulations, what they've seen over the years, like you say,
exactly.
yours.
Right, exactly, and be able to understand the connectivity between what we as a contractor see and how we execute the contract and how the government then expects us to execute, and have a robust dialogue. You should be able to communicate across the aisles with each other and have a dialogue to say, this is my position, let's understand your position, and be able to come to a consensus. But it seems like we can't come to that consensus anymore. We put up barriers and we don't talk, or they don't want to talk to us. They're afraid of being,
the oversight. Yeah, the oversight. Yeah, it's not as collaborative. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But that comes in cycles. In my time in the government, we had where we were very collaborative, and then we'd shut down. We weren't collaborative. So I think it comes with cycles with what's happening throughout the government. So I think again, right now things are going to firm fixed price. Everything firm fixed price, but that puts the risk on the contractors, even though the government thinks they're going to get it at a lower price for that. So I think that swing, are these contracts, do we really have the data to be able to firm fixed price them, or are contractors going to bid this stuff that's, in the end, they're not going to be able to perform?
And the government's going to get what it pays for.
Right, exactly.
The government contractor's not going to spend an extra 400 hours if they don't have to.
Right, exactly.
They'll do it as quickly as they possibly can.
So we have to be able to have the data to be able to bid on, make sure we're giving them the right price for what the services that they want, so that we can deliver on those services, and the government gets what they want.
For any of you that have been with our show for over the last year, you will have seen we haven't really had any questions with regard to the drawdown. What does that mean for contractors? What does that mean in terms of withdrawing from those harsh environments? Ella has not only served at the DLA, but she also was in the Air Force. And I think your perspective from both being really on the front lines and now with KBR, you could address that. How is it affecting KBR? And in general, what does that withdrawal mean?
Well, first of all, when you're on the ground and working with the military to try to reset all the equipment and the personnel, first you have to plan with the military and how they're going to execute their drawdown of shutting down the various bases and what's going to happen with the equipment and materials. And so how do you logistically move all that equipment? What's going to stay behind? What's coming forward?
Protect it from not getting in the hands of insurgents.
And also, the young troops, they want to leave, and people want to leave, so they just, how do they just leave their stuff behind, and you have to segregate it and make sure that there's the ammunition's put where it needs to be put, and all those kind of things. So it was a lot of logistical, especially in Iraq. We had several hundred bases there, and so how do you draw those down? And basically being able to time that properly, and then also how do our personnel stay? So when do they stay and when do they go, and be able to attract them to stay to the end, because they know that they have to go out and find another job. So you don't want people to leave too fast. You want them to be able to stay there and make sure that they're maintaining and helping us get what we need to get out. And so
incentivizing them to have their heart in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how do you incentivize them? It isn't necessarily money. It's the good...
That's your job.
Yeah. It's the pat on the back and being able to say, please stay with us. And we had people over there for the entire time, that served 10 years in Iraq doing the functions for us, and we trained a lot of people from different countries, so they had to, how do you deploy them back to their different countries and things like that. But I think some things that we expected with the drawdown didn't happen. So
such as?
Reset of equipment. So coming back and how do we help with the equipment? The military was able to move a lot of that to Afghanistan. So we helped be able to move it across to Afghanistan, or some of it we left a lot of it behind, and then other things came back to the United States, but it wasn't in the waves we thought that we'd have more work to be able to help them do. They were able to absorb it here in the U.S. So Afghanistan, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the drawdown there, but I know that as they draw down over the times, we're finding that we can get personnel to work on other contracts because they're looking for jobs. So now we're able to absorb those personnel to be able to help us with personnel needs on other contracts that we have. So it's been a plus and a minus. We had a lot of personnel that served a lot of years for us that now have gone out and find other jobs. And then plus now we're getting other personnel from a drawdown from Afghanistan and other areas where we're shrinking in the size and supporting the military.
We'll be able to absorb them here.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly.
As our regular viewers know, Government Contracting Weekly is brought to you by Key Solutions. And Key Solutions provides strategy, capture and proposal support services to contractors winning government contracts, and actually has worked with KBR.
Right.
And in this ever competitive environment, There are many companies now that have the expertise and are certainly competitors to KBR in terms of having worked in very challenging locations. I know that there now you have more competitors than you ever have.
Yes.
However, you continue to win.
Yes.
So our audience loves to hear, what are the keys to winning? Why are you still winning contracts, Ella?
Well, I think one of the main things is, what do you deliver today? Because your past performance is key to the future. So you need to be able to bid your contracts with being able to deliver the services. So if you don't have the right dollar amounts, the right personnel, key personnel that understand your processes to deliver, you won't be able to deliver that product to the services. And I always believe that your past performance is your key number one thing that you have to do.
As long as you've done well at it, though.
Yeah,
there's no
that's the thing.
past performance that
you have
failed
to
at.
You have to deliver.
Yes, you're only as good as your last project, too.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the way the government's going with technically acceptable low price, you're going to be, price and what you've done in the past.
Mm-hmm. Right, yes, the two things.
So
So you've got
those
a price has got to be right, and you've got to have a great track
right.
record. Yes.
And so you don't want to win at any cost. At least we don't.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be able to deliver the services that we bid in our contracts. But you have to also make sure you're bidding what's in the request for proposal too.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes when you're an incumbent or you think you know the job, you bid what you think needs to be there, but you have to understand what the client really wants.
What they want, and be compliant with what
Right.
they want.
And talk
Yes.
about the how. Sometimes we all talk about ourselves in proposals. Sometimes when you're at Red Team and you're getting ready to review the proposal, you think, well, how come we're talking about ourselves here instead of talking
Yes.
about the
No.
solutions for the client? So those are the things that you always have to focus on, is what brings you back to the client. I
Yes.
mean, what do they want you, and how come they would want you? It's because you're going to deliver on that, and it's the service they want.
It's a service that they always want, and you've done that. And Ella, thank you not only for being here this morning, but thank you for your service to our nation too.
Oh, thank you very much.
Our thanks again to Ella Studer for sharing her insights. Now let's turn to Bob Dougherty on NetCentrics and SECAF. This morning we have with us Bob Dougherty, the President and CEO of NetCentrics. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Hillary.
Bob joins us to help us determine what were the major outcomes and issues discussed at the recent SECAF conference. SECAF is the Small and Emerging Contractors Advisory Forum, and really they address the issues that small and emerging companies are facing. And Bob, there were many takeaways, and you as a small business have some views and some feedback on that. But first, give our audience a little perspective about NetCentrics. I know that you have about 260 employees in the IT space, but what are you offering, focusing on, and where do you operate?
Okay, we've been in business for about 18 years now, and we've concentrated in IT design, IT services, and certainly our major customers are the U.S. government, particularly in DoD. So we offer everything from help desk services up to enterprise architecture, cybersecurity, and a lot of functions related to those. We do a lot of support to the government, like I mentioned, particularly in the Washington, D.C. area here.
And so your perspective is from NetCentrics, but also your many years of working with DoD and in the government space.
Absolutely. So the conference was certainly valuable to me and certainly solidified some of the experiences we're having in this industry.
Now, I moderated the conference, and we generally heard the overall concern, frustration from small businesses who were in attendance about the fact that large companies have immense cash reserves, they can wait out the storm, they can weather the downturns, but not small companies.
Not so much. We certainly have plans and budgets that have certain dates on them, and a lot of that is dependent upon certain contracts being awarded or certain opportunities coming out and contracts coming out. And we've seen a lot of slippage in the last few weeks, months, even years, related to the government and the budgets and so forth. So
and the slippage is something that small companies suffer from, and you're right on the edge waiting, whereas large government contractors sort of weather it.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So we're not perhaps as prepared for the delays that we're experiencing these days.
So while the small and emerging contractors at the SECAF conference were concerned, about being able to weather the storm. There was a lot of positive news that came out of the conference. We touched upon the growth areas, definitely healthcare IT, definitely cyber, but Bob, there were a number of other areas where there are growth opportunities for small companies. I know that obviously NetCentrics has had a lot of success recently, you're successful, but there were some other areas that maybe you're not even in that you saw were successful for other contractors.
Right, and they mentioned a few particular agencies
Yes.
that wouldn't be as affected by the budgets, by the constraints of the government and so forth. And one in particular was the Veterans Administration, VA, and they have a very large T4 contract, so there's a lot of services being provided through that. That will certainly get some funding due to service members coming back, due to healthcare issues as well.
And there's been a lot of issue about clearing up the backlog. They've put lots of resources to clear up the backlog.
Exactly, and that has to continue, obviously, to support our warfighters, and particularly now that they're coming back home. So that'll get some. Healthcare is going to affect issues. Treasury, of course, will be getting some funding as well. And some other agencies that have for services, such as the Patent and Trademark Office, GSA as well, will get funding. So we'll see certainly some growth, if not not as much cuts in those areas.
While the SECAF conference did focus on small and emerging companies, there was quite a bit of advice that came out of the conference that was with regard to like a sort of macro vision of what any government contractor should look at in terms of where to move to, where to put resources, and where there are opportunities. Bob, maybe you can share with our audience what that advice was. Absolutely.
Certainly what I got out of the conference, probably more than anything, is how to look into the future, where the government will be spending money. And the advice was look at where the government policies, what's being written today, what's being written or being proposed for the future. And those policies will drive where the money goes. We've seen it with cybersecurity, and money has gone to cybersecurity. We've seen it now with healthcare. So look to see where the new policies are being written. Obviously, there's pushes for data centers and consolidation of data centers, move to the cloud. There'll be policies related to that and more policies. And in the future, there'll be policies for the next phase. So that's where you can look, see where the government's moving, see where the new rules and policies are being written, and that's where you want to be ahead of the curve.
And that came from Centurion Research. They mentioned that, and there was a lot of data on that behind that
Correct.
too.
Yes. Yes.
As our regular viewers know, the force behind Government Contracting Weekly is Key Solutions that provides strategy capture and proposal support services for the winning of government contracts. So it's interesting always, and we hear a lot from our viewers, what does it take to win? What are those keys to winning? We heard quite a bit of that at SECAF. I know that you at NetCentrics have had many wins recently, some great contracts. Maybe you could share with our audience, what are the keys to your winning at NetCentrics, and what did you hear from the SECAF conference?
Well, actually, they're very related.
Yes.
A lot of our recent success has been because we've won prime contracts on IDIQ contracts. So we've won a contract for the Coast Guard and one supporting the Office of the Secretary of Defense. So those have been very successful. We won the prime contracts, and then we won several task orders. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of some of the information that we got back from the SECAF event, is that you really want to get on the IDIQs and the multiple award contracts, the MAC contracts. And the government is using more of them in multiple agencies, and that includes GSA and GSA contracts as well. And what's happening is the government, particularly in IT, is using those to get IT services. So you want to be on those contracts, you want to look for new ones in the future, you want to try to get on current ones, because that's where the spending will be. So certainly a lot, if not most of our growth has been through getting those prime contracts and then competing and awarding the task orders.
And having the right vehicles to be able to compete,
Absolutely.
the hunting licenses.
The hunting licenses, absolutely. That's really been the key to our success.
And we heard that from the conference too, attendees.
Yes, absolutely. And that is the trend, and that was stated as the trend, and certainly the advice from the conference is to look for those opportunities, get on those IDIQs, get on those MAC contracts, and certainly we continue to look for every opportunity we can for new contracts coming out.
Well, congratulations on your successes at NetCentrics.
Thank you,
and
Hillary.
if you weren't able to attend the SECAF conference, you can see the SECAF website and future events they have and they're holding.
Good morning. I'm Richard Nathan, President and CEO of Key Solutions, and I'm here in Deloitte's offices in Tyson's Corner this morning with Robin Lineberger. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Richard.
Robin is the principal for Aerospace and Defense for Deloitte, and he also co-chaired with Ellen Glover of ICF Kaiser, Professional Service Council's Leadership Council and their 2013 report, Crisis to Opportunity. Can you tell our viewers about that report and why it's so timely?
Sure. So the membership of the PSC felt it was time for us to get our thoughts together on some of the key issues around the acquisition of professional services in the federal marketplace today. Put together the commission and came up with 4 key findings. The first is that there's a continuing human capital dilemma, particularly as it relates to the integration of contracting for professional services and the IT community. Next, that there is a diminishing level of collaboration, not only within government between departments, but as well as between industry and government. Thirdly, that the development of a more informative and useful taxonomy of services to be used as a pre-award framework rather than a post-award accounting would be in order. And then finally, that to create this change, it was the responsibility of not only government, but industry needed to participate and had a role as well.
What were the primary findings?
Well, underneath for example, the taxonomy area, that in the past we've used a taxonomy to account for what we've done rather than using it as a pre-award decision. So we were suggestive of a framework that would allow them to differentiate, the contracting officials, to differentiate the kinds of services and their complexity from simple and well-known tasks to one-of-a-kind, highly complex and innovative, and then to be able to look at the contracting mechanism appropriate for that type of service. And then finally, to be able to go and suggestive of the right kind of firm, whether it be a small, mid, or large size firm, whether it be an NGO, a nonprofit, or a for-profit firm.
I take it the government collaborated in this study?
They did. We met with the CIO community, the Chief Acquisition Officer community, the CHICOs for short, or the Chief Human Capital Officers, as well as a couple of their constituent groups and their younger workforce, taking a look at their young leadership.
I assume you recommended a path forward?
We did.
What are the highlights of that?
We did. Under the human capital areas around strategic planning for their human capital, so that once they determine, the government determines what it will perform as an organization, that the marketplace can react and tuck in around that and be leverageable for the workforce of the future to execute government needs. Secondly, to focus on the acquisition community, the services acquisition community in particular, to utilize cross-training across acquisition and technology, and then to help redevelop the training curriculum that brings in more of a business acumen, critical skills, critical thinking skills, so that as they plan the acquisition, they'll have a better understanding of how industry views a particular opportunity.
So you've described what has to be done. Now, who does it?
Well, there would be really 3 groups. One is we would need Congress's support in some areas for some of the recommendations about authorities and who owns the curriculum, who would be accountable for the development in the future. Some of that can be done without legislation, but in some cases it will take minor legislation to accomplish that. With respect to the human capital, it's the strategic planning in the human capital officers. The redevelopment of the training curriculum is in the hands of the government agencies, and we would suggest that they come together, particularly on the civilian agency side, to harmonize that across agencies, as the Defense Department has done a pretty good job of that already. And then finally, there's the contracting community, there's private industry, is that we need to engage in that dialogue, we need to be more collaborative, and then we need to take a look at the kinds of things that might be exacerbating the situation, like re-looking at how the protests, how firms make decisions at protesting awards.
What are the impediments to implementing your recommendations?
Well, in today's environment, fiscal austerity. Then that if you kind of divide the group into 1/3, those that want to take action, those that don't care, and those think that everything is going as it is, we expect that it'll be some challenges around those that are satisfied with the way things are, that they think everything is going well, and so we think that the change management process, if you will, is the biggest impediment.
So looking forward, what has to happen for you to feel that progress is being made? Right.
Well, one would be, do we see these issues emerging on the legislative agenda? Would be one. Next is we committed as an association to convene a council or a group to look at this protest issue. And then thirdly, do we see the formulation of a standardized course curriculum within government, I say course curriculum, career path for these acquisition officials, blending IT skills and acquisition tasks. And if we see that burgeoning, we'll know that the recommendations are being actioned.
And practically speaking, what time frame do you see that happening in?
It'll take multiple, as you expect. The legislative agenda could take a year or so to move that through. We can start immediately on the industry actions, and then I suspect we're in a multi-year rollout of the development of that career path and training on it. And it'll take a number of years before people start to finish, come out of the other end of that human capital pipeline.
Now, considering what we've seen in our government recently, what's your sense in Congress? What kind of opinion would they have of this?
Well, let me give you the government feedback. So we've been out and we've talked to a number of government officials, those that would be necessary to action this. Leadership at the Defense Department, leadership at OMB, those that are accountable for acquisition policy, and all have been in one way or another supportive of the findings and have committed to taking a look at it and adopting it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything else that you want to tell our viewers about the study?
Yeah, I think one is, as to your point, it was collaborative amongst the government as well as industry, and that it was a broad representation of industry through the Professional Services Council's membership of over 350 firms. So it was a broad-based set of input and supported by about 20 commissioners who actually worked to bring those thoughts together in this final report.
Great. And the report's available online?
It is. It's available on the PSC website electronically, and I suspect if you go online and you want a hard copy, there would be an opportunity to order and to get a hard copy as well.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
You've mentioned lessons learned in the capture and proposals processes, but how about sharing some with us, your audience?
Sure. Try these on for size. They were collected from capture and proposal experts at Key Solutions. There's a difference between proposal noncompliance and poor writing. Development of the outline is the one task that proposal managers should never delegate. The last one to touch the executive summary is the hero. Use proposal professionals, not SMEs, to write a proposal intended to sell. Putting text in a box and calling it a graphic does not make it so. We need a fresh approach to proposal capture and writing, one for today, not one basically invented in the 1960s. The term discriminator is carelessly tossed around as if there are dozens of them. Most companies are fortunate if they have one true discriminators. Want more lessons learned from the School of Hard Knocks? For more information about this and other keys to winning, go to governmentcontractingweekly.com and click on Weekly Buzz.
You've been watching Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored each week by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. For additional information, comments, questions, or suggestions, please write us at governmentcontractingweekly.com.